till we do something for Golden Country and go back to work. That's a good one right there. I'm GNA Kick Your Butt. Can you threaten to kick me in a funnier way? From dominating reality TV shows for over 10 years to the dark secrets hidden behind the pawn shop counter getting exposed, this is the untold story of Pawn Stars and Rick Harrison's confession. The family-run business built on the knowledge of the history of gold and silver has recently been drowning in a series of controversial allegations, scandals, lawsuits, and family betrayals. These threats could end or permanently taint their legacy. With all that has been happening, Rick Harrison's empire has been pushed to the edge and might end up falling. What was once a humble pawn shop led its owners to fame, greed, and legal chaos, but where does their story begin? A pawn shop empire built on the knowledge of gold and silver. At the center of it all was Richard Oldman Harrison, the 77-year-old patriarch who co-founded the pawn shop in Las Vegas. His experience in the business, combined with his no-nonsense attitude, made him a fan favorite and obviously the one to call the shots. However, his death in 2018 marked a turning point for the family, both personally and professionally. Rick Harrison, the brains behind the shop's TV success, knew from the beginning that pawning was about more than just making quick sales. Connected to it, it's got to have a story. Everyone loves a story, he said. I mean, like, if you take any really expensive antique, something that sells at Christie's for $1 million, you're buying the story. With a basic knowledge of gold and silver, he built the gold and silver pawn shop from the ground up, even though, in the early days, making a profit was tough. Often, Rick found himself lending more money than he was earning. Regardless, he pushed through, expanding his expertise and becoming a trusted name in the pawn industry. However, the real game-changer came in 2009 when Pawn Stars debuted on the History Channel. The show followed Rick, his father, his son Corey Big Hoss Harrison, and Corey's friend Austin Chumley Russell as they interacted with the unusual and sometimes priceless items brought into the shop. Customers brought all sorts of things, including rare comic books and artifacts believed to be from ancient Egypt. For this reason, no day was ever the same at the pawn shop. This unpredictability kept the experience interesting. Fans loved the banter between Rick and his father, as well as Chumley's goofy, kind of naive personality. But as the show became more famous, nasty business was going on behind the scenes. Rick Harrison's nasty legal battle with his mother was one of the biggest issues. According to USA Today, Rick's mother, Joanne Harrison, sued her son in a dispute over family assets and the ownership of the gold and silver pawn shop. Rick said, "I had no idea because, like I said, I had epilepsy, and back then there's no research on it or anything like that. I thought I had limitations. Oh no, I thought I had a really limited lifespan, but that's just a tip." Joanne's attorneys filed the civil lawsuit in Nevada State Court. The lawsuit named Rick Harrison, the gold and silver pawn shop business entities, Harrison Properties, Joe Rick Properties, and others as defendants. The complaint cited a breach of contract, stating that Joanne, married to Rick's father for 58 years, was coerced into signing over her 51% interest in the pawn shop after a coma in the early 2000s. Joanne claimed she did not fully understand what she was signing due to her medical condition. Then in 2018, when Richard died, Joanne was supposed to inherit his 49% share of the pawn shop, but Rick had provided her with complete documentation of the business's finances. This led Joanne to allege that she had not been able to get proper accounting for more than $500,000 worth of cash and silver. According to her, the late Richard accumulated those things before his death. Following this legal battle, Rick's net worth was threatened. This lawsuit sought unspecified damages, an accounting of assets, a court order banning Rick from using funds belonging to Joanne, and a constructive trust over property that belongs to her. Talking to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Rick claimed that the allegations were false and suggested that his 81-year-old mother was being manipulated by others for their personal gain. Yet that was not the only bomb that dropped on the family business. According to the Daily Mail, in 2020, the gold and silver pawn shop, which usually accumulates over $1 million annually, only made $1,374 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This hit them hard, but the legal drama did not stop there. Rick's mother went ahead and filed a restraining order. Joanne's temporary restraining order against Rick was filed to prevent him from selling off the family's assets. In her defense, Joanne claimed that Rick had stopped sending her money from Richard's share of the business. At first, Rick had been giving her regular $225,000 payments, but stopped in 2020. Joanne filed for a restraining order in an attempt to have that allowance reinstated through the courts. On top of that, the restraining order would also stop Rick from transferring or concealing cash, assets, or performing any other actions that would diminish Joanne's interest in the family's business. Additionally, it was reported that Joanne, by then 81 years old, suffered from many health issues that required 24-hour care and supervision, which could cost up to $115,000 a month. What shocked Rick was that he found out about the restraining order request through news reports and not directly from Joanne. Following this incident, Rick claimed to have tried to reach her numerous times for several months, but could not. This made it harder for him to negotiate better terms so that everyone could go home happy, even though they wouldn't go back to the same home. But this was not the only legal battle. A member of this family, or at least a friend, was facing legal troubles: Austin Chumley Russell. Chumley was definitely one of the shadiest members of the Pawn Stars cast. As TMZ reported in 2012, he was caught on camera brawling with a guy in Hollywood before fleeing the scene. The victim was left bruised and bleeding on the side of the road, but Chumley insisted he acted in self-defense after the guy threatened to pull a gun on him and his friends. Chumley said the stranger just wanted to ride in our car and start problems. While he dodged a bullet with this one, there was no excusing the scandal he was about to find himself in. For years later, according to the Chicago Tribune, in 2016, Chumley landed in jail after being arrested on suspicion of 20 felonies. The arrest occurred after cops raided his house as part of their investigation into sexual assault accusations. During the raid, officers allegedly found methamphetamine, marijuana, and at least one gun at Chumley's home in southwest Las Vegas. While Chumley wasn't booked on sex crime allegations, Officer Larry Hadfield, a department spokesman, said the investigation was due to a recent complaint by a woman. Chumley was a suspect in the sexual assault case, and part of the investigation was due to a woman's complaint. The AP report cited Clark County Detention Center's records, saying that Russell faced 19 drug possession charges and 1 weapons charge. After some time, the sexual assault charges were ultimately cleared, but the damage had already been done. He was not getting off the hook that easily. Chumley faced a new legal nightmare thanks to what was uncovered during the raid. According to TMZ, the cops seized narcotics including weed, meth, and Xanax. They also discovered traces of cocaine and 12 guns, 8 of which were unregistered. Seeing that he was compromised, Chumley ultimately pleaded guilty to a felony weapons charge and to a gross misdemeanor of attempted drug possession. He was in hot water, but he wasn't the only one. Rick's son, Corey Big Hoss Harrison, also faced personal troubles. Known for his ambition to take over the shop one day, Corey faced a rough patch when reports surfaced of his wild behavior during a stop on a motorcycle tour in Jefferson City. Corey was involved in an embarrassing incident at a bar called Spectators after a week of heavy drinking. Witnesses described how Corey shocked patrons by urinating in public and throwing a bar stool, resulting in him being kicked out of the bar. This incident drew negative attention, though Corey later expressed regret and issued a public apology. However, more trouble followed him. In 2021, according to TMZ, Big Hoss rented an RV for a short vacation in the California desert in 2020. However, according to the vehicle's owner, William V. Harrison, Corey failed to return the RV on the agreed date and in one piece. The owner claimed that Corey's assistant called a day later to say they were involved in an accident and were going to have the RV towed back. It took 2 more days before the wrecked vehicle finally arrived, with the bodywork damaged and other issues. The owner estimated the cost of repairs would be up to $30,000. Despite the damage, Corey refused to pay for the repairs, forcing the owner to file a police report. Even with the media attention this was drawing, Corey's representative tried to brush it off, claiming the RV's pop-outs wouldn't go back and that it was not drivable. However, they insisted that Corey had the RV towed back to Las Vegas and had insurance handle it. Though Corey managed to legally escape the consequences, his public image was stained. In his personal life, Corey had to battle his weight, which had reached dangerous levels. This led him to undergo gastric bypass surgery in 2010, which helped him lose over 100 pounds. But the pressures of fame, managing the pawn shop, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle continued to affect him.